Welcome to the first of a series of videos designed to get you ready for the USPA Coach Rating Course. Coaches are an integral part of any drop zone. They're going to work with jumpers that are safe enough to jump on their own and mold them into skydivers that will be safe enough to jump with others. Students want and need an enthusiastic coach to guide them through this transition period while also giving them a little bit more knowledge and being a role model for them. So I'm going to introduce myself first, and then we'll go over USPA, its structure, and as well as the ratings. And then we're going to spend the majority of the video on the coach rating itself, what you can do with it, how you earn it, and then of course, how to make sure that you keep it.
So just quickly, a little bit about myself. I made my first jump in May 2001. It was a tandem, and I actually did a tandem progression to get certified. In 2003, I went and got my coach rating at Skydive City, the Skydive ratings. And then it took me a few years. I was still jumping at this time, but I also had my two kids. And in May 2011 is when I went and I got my AFF instructor rating. And then just a few years after that, I got my coach examiner rating. So as you can see from this picture up in the left, our latest adventure, my daughter and I went trekking to Everest Base Camp. So I love to travel and I love teaching. So let's get started with the coach course. And the first part is going to be all about USPA.
USPA, or United States Parachute Association, has a mission to ensure that skydiving is able to take place on airports. They promote competitions. And what we're most interested in is that they promote safe skydiving through training, licensing, and instructor qualification programs. It's made up of a board of directors, and these are the people that meet twice a year to decide if any of the manuals or rules need to be written or rewritten. And it's made up of 14 regional directors, 8 national directors, and then there is one National Aeronautical Association representative. So the regional directors and the national directors, that's who we're voting for when there's USPA elections. However, they have a headquarters staff, and these are going to be the people that carry out the day-to-day tasks of USPA, and their headquarters is located in Fredericksburg, Virginia. There are 3 positions that you should be aware of. First is Director of Safety and Training. So if you have any questions about any of the material that's in the training programs, this will be the person to contact. We have a Director of Technology. So lately, USPA has been putting everything online, going digital, which has been fantastic. But if you have any IT questions, that would be the person to talk to. And then finally, the Director of Membership Services might be important if you have questions about your membership or ratings. So USPA puts out these manuals every 2 years. I believe they put out a new rewrite. So the Skydivers Information Manual, or SIM, is one that many people are familiar with. This is where you're going to find all of the training programs. But what is also going to be important from this course is the Instructional Rating Manual, or the IRM. This is where you're going to find all of the information that you would need whenever you go to get any of your ratings. So that's coach, AFF instructor, tandem instructor, all of that material is in the IRM. So what is a USPA coach? Coach is the first of 3 ratings that you can get. Next would be if you want to be an instructor of some sort. So if you want to be an AFF instructor or a tandem instructor, you would go to a course that is specific for that and hopefully get your instructor rating. But who gets to teach the instructors? That's going to be our third and final rating, and that's going to be the examiner. So if you get your AFF instructor rating, you would have taken a course with an AFF examiner. So to become an examiner, there's actually a rating course that you have to go through first, and then once you meet all the prereqs, you then have several things signed off and you can become an examiner. So there's a little bit of something that happens in between though. Each examiner can decide if they want to have any evaluators to help them out in their course. So typically they're going to be designating instructors that are pretty experienced, have sat through the courses before with them and know what they want, and they can designate them as an evaluator. So evaluator isn't actually a rating that you earn, it's a designation. And so that's kind of similar to also SNTA. So SNTA is not something that you have to get your rating for. It's actually just a designation from the regional director to say, this is kind of like my liaison between USPA and that particular drop zone. So SNTAs are tied to a particular drop zone, and that is a designation, not a rating. So there you can see where coach rating falls into all of this. It's the stepping stone to every other instructional rating that's out there. So what is a USPA coach? Meaning, what can they do? Well, they can teach non-method specific parts of the first jump course. And they can also do some transition training for students that maybe started with tandem and now they're transitioning to a solo method. So all this first jump course material can be found in the sim in chapter 1 in category A. And we're going to be doing a lot of that. We're going to go through most of those topics in the coach course itself. What else can they do? They can conduct group freefall skills training. So this is what most people think about when they think about coach jumps. So those are going to be found also in chapter 1 in the sim in categories F, G, and H. So in category F, where the student is working on flat tracking, they also do their hop and pops if they haven't done any already. And under canopy, they work on break turns. Category G is where they learn to take grips. They learn how to adjust their fall rate, and under canopy, they'll do some reverse turns. Category H is when they're honing these skills that they've learned by performing dive to docks. Under canopy, this is going to be low turn recovery drills that they would be doing. So those are the group skills that coaches get to teach to students. What else can a coach do? They can conduct recurrency jumps with licensed skydivers. Recurrency training requirements can be found in Chapter 4 of the sim. So as we can see, if the skydiver does not have a license, then they're a student. They have to jump every 30 days. Once they have an A license, this goes up to 60 days, B license is 90 days, and C and D license is 180 days. So again, coaches can do recurrency training for any licensed skydiver. So if it's a student that needs recurrency training, that actually needs to be done with an instructor. So what topics would you need to cover? First, being equipment. Is there anything that is new to them that you may need to go over? Aircraft procedures being seatbelt use. So at what point are they allowed to take off their seatbelt? Door operation and any emergencies that might happen in the aircraft. In free fall, you want to make sure that you plan a suitable jump. And under canopy, you want to make sure that you touch on landing patterns as well as going through emergency procedures again with them. The sim says that A licensed jumpers must demonstrate altitude awareness, free fall control on all axes, tracking, and canopy skills sufficient for safely jumping in groups. The checkout dive is going to be a great tool to use here. Whereas B, C, and D licensed jumpers must demonstrate the ability to safely exercise the privileges of that license. So you need to make sure that you come up with a suitable jump for their skill level to make sure that they can demonstrate that. Now, the last thing that I want to leave you with is perhaps an instructor might need to go instead. If, depending on the circumstances with that person, if it's been several years or they really didn't have a whole lot of experience before leaving the sport for quite some time, instead of a coach going with them, perhaps an instructor should. So what else can a coach do? They can also supervise static line and IAD students in category C once they performed a successful hop and pop. So let's do a quick recap. Coaches can teach non-method specific parts of the first jump course. They can do transitions training for students going from a tandem to a solo method. They can conduct group freefall skills, so that's categories F, G, and H that we talked about. They can conduct recurrency jumps only with licensed skydivers, and they can supervise static line and IAD students in category C. I'd like to finish this by saying that make sure that all training that you do as a coach is conducted under the supervision of a current and appropriately rated USPA instructor. So now, of course, you're wondering, well, how do I get my coach rating? The prereqs that you need to meet before you even attend the course is that you must be at least 18 years of age, you must have at least a B license, and at least 100 jumps. In the course, you'll complete an open book exam, and you need to make sure that you got 80% correct at a minimum. We're going to do ground trainings, and you need 2 satisfactory ground trainings from first jump course material and 2 satisfactory ground trainings from category G. This is going to be actually category G1 and G2. 2 satisfactory in-air evaluations, and once again, this is category G1 and G2. A satisfactory debriefing. You need to complete the course, and then finally, you need to pay USPA for your new rating. Once you get your coach rating, you're going to want to keep it. So whenever your USPA membership expires for the year, so does your rating unless you renew it. For those people that might be lifetime members, at the end of the year, so on December 31st, that's when your rating would expire as well. What do we need to do to keep our coach rating to be able to renew it? There's a few things. We need to have at least 15 coach jumps for that year. We need to have taught a first jump course, attended a rating renewal seminar, and again, we've got to pay USPA to renew our ratings. That's a different fee than renewing your membership itself. So let's talk a little bit more about these requirements. So 15 plus coach jumps. Personally, as a coach examiner, I believe that you don't have to do exactly F, G, and H jumps for it to count as a coach jump. If you have trained a person that's less experienced than you go on that jump so you can observe them in the air, and then you debrief them on the ground, especially if you're including canopy stuff. Maybe you looked at their landing pattern or videoed their landing and talked to that about them. To me, that counts. It doesn't have to be, this was a category G2 jump that I did. As long as it's any jump where you actually acted as a coach. Rating renewal seminars. Those are something where you just need to get together as a group of people. Hopefully your drop zone is doing this on a regular basis anyhow, and you talk about what are the new things that maybe USPA has put out, and also just what are some issues that you've seen as you were acting as a coach or other people saw as an instructor. And it's just a time for people to get together and talk about what's going on as it relates to training.
So that wraps up the section about the makeup of USPA and also what is a coach, what they can do, how you earn your rating, and how to keep the rating. So make sure you go grab a snack, grab a drink, use the restroom, whatever you need, because the next section is all about rules and liability. And I promise it's not going to be fun, but it is going to be very important for you to know.